From the liberal Northeast comes a lone voice of truth. Honest commentary in dishonest times. Think deeper with Juan Newsom. This is the Cure radio program. This is the Cure.
Folks, tonight we got a special guest. She is a well-known conservative blogger, radio commentator, and speaker. She is founder of the Last Civil Rights Media Bloggers Group. She's also president of the Frederick Douglass Foundation in Illinois. She is a strong advocate for limited government principles, individual freedom, and a strong free market. She's also appeared on various radio and TV shows and publications. Tonight, folks, I just want to introduce my good friend, Miss Babette Holder. Babette. Hey, Babette, how's it going? How you doing?
I'm doing great. How are you?
I'm fine. So, Babette, I have to hold you personally responsible for a few things. Your city, Chicago, has given us Obama, R. Kelly, and now Jussie Smollett. What is going on in your city?
You know, besides R. Kelly, the other two are immigrants. And they weren't originally born in Chicago. I was born in Chicago. There's no question about it. I was born at Cook County Hospital. I was raised until the age of 10 on the South Side on Inglewood.
Mm-hmm.
And so, the other two are transients, and it just so happened that they perpetrated their crimes. Obama with his Democrat Socialist political boot camp training here, and then Smollett with perpetrating a hoax, wasting $25 million of the taxpayers' funding.
Wow. I mean, how do you get off? How do you get a sweetheart deal like that? I mean, you're talking about 16 counts. How is it even possible? I can't even fathom how he got that deal. I cannot even fathom.
Indictments and counts, and reduced down to a $10,000, they calling it, his payment, and $25 million is the estimate that experts, and I believe the current Chicago mayor, Rahm Emanuel, has stated. So I'm not throwing a number out there. I can only imagine, and people are like, how would it get to that number at that time? Well, you're talking about a dozen law enforcement detectives assigned to her, or detectives and regular officers.
Yep.
The cooperation, manpower hours, of course, payment that goes into their pension, with them cooperating with businesses in the city and pulling videos. They're technical experts and data folks looking at that footage, making sure it's clear enough, checking for audio. I mean, when you start adding it all up, it's very expensive. And this is on the taxpayers. We pay those salaries and pensions.
Wow. I just cannot, but I not imagine now. The president, he's stepping forward. He spoke out on this. He also sent a series of tweets in regards to the Jussie Smollett case that the DOJ will be looking into this incident. I'm just wondering, now, will there be, because now the people that are involved that have dropped this case are going to have to cooperate with federal authorities at some point. So I don't know, just to get the temperature there, do you think there'll be resistance?
Well, it's interesting how all this happened, Juan. Okay, Kim Foxx is the Cook County State's attorney. Every county has a state's attorney. Cook County is Kim Fox. We do have an Illinois state attorney, but when it's just specific to the city and so forth, that would be going through Kim Fox's office.
Mm-hmm.
She's elected to that position. Kim Fox is in the party and camp with, she's a Democrat. She ran for it as a Democrat.
Yeah.
Barack Obama, all them. And now I find it interesting that so many of her own fellow Democrat leaders and elected peers are very angry, or those who work with them as like strategists and advisors, such as David Axelrod. It's a famous name for you. He was strategist for Barack Obama's campaign.
Mm-hmm.
The censorship is heavy on her. The FOP, which is the Fraternal Order of Police here, they want an investigation as to why 16 indictments were dropped and only a 10,000. And then they want to say community service was served based on prior things he had done in Chicago. Nothing, though, I believe, from what I understand, that would be issued by the grand jury for him to do. And so that your listeners know, and you, Juan, there's a publication called CWB Out There Press, and I'll try and get you the link. It's
Mm-hmm.
CWB. I just posted an article today by them. They did a great job with checking with the Chicago Police Department and seeing what similar cases committed by people with similar backgrounds, except they weren't celebrities,
Mm.
and what their punishments were for false reports to the police. These are people who didn't have any type of background, no law enforcement record, and so forth. And every last one of them got some kind of penalty
Mm.
and got, and charged with a fine as well. So that's very interesting. I thought there.
That's funny you should say that, because I remember reading, I believe in the middle of February, there was when this whole thing, you know, initially came into the news cycle. Um, there was a comparison done with other hate crimes, and there have been other hate crimes that have been, I guess Trump inspired hate crimes, and
Yes.
a lot of them have received similar non-punishments. So I mean, that's just that's just amazing. Anything. It seems like these crimes, they're related to Trump hate, or Trump
Right.
hating Trump supporters, and there's people aren't receiving any penalties, any jail time, any type of any type of any punishment for these crimes being carried out. So I just find that very odd.
It is interesting that they're not held accountable, and especially if anywhere within that hate crime hoax or any hate crime that, and they mention, and it's done in the name of, because this is possibly from Trump's folks. And it is CWB Chicago is this
Hmm.
publication. The WB stands for Wrigleyville, Boys Town area of Chicago. They
Okay.
decided to do an alternative publication that would follow in news stories from beginning to end, all the way through. And because I guess they have a relationship with law enforcement within communities and areas, that they know how to go there, request information, data, and records, which is what they did. And they put a chart in there with these crimes that have happened. And like they said, they were careful to choose people with a similar background,
Mm.
but they were not celebrities. And frankly, I looked at the chart, and they tell you how long it took for their cases to be resolved, or whether they got a couple that are still ongoing. But many
Hmm.
had the case was outcome was a guilty plea. Many had 2 years probation, and then or court supervision for a year, 60 hours of community. One got fined 24 months probation and $804. And this is your average Joe Smo. They put his age or younger. The 19-year-old, oh, and by the way, everyone else got one felony count. He has 16 felony counts pending. These all have one felony count. Yet you see what they got with one felony count. He got nothing.
Wow.
And Juan, I want to bring up this point. There was some confusion yesterday as to whether the records were being expunged and sealed, or some people were running around saying expunged. Today, a legal expert was saying and made a press statement that the records, they're not expunged, which is something I had said, and that they are sealed though, but if they're to ever be expunged, yeah, I guess anyone who wants to you have 7 to 8 months prior. Now, anyone can FOIA these documents, which I believe many news sources are and others, because they want to see the full documents and the grand jury's decision. And also, the FBI is now looking at the letter. Remember, there was a second component besides his hoax attack. Allegedly, he had a hate letter mailed to his studio workplace in Chicago, right?
Yeah.
And it was, of course, the implication in there about the Trump person and so forth. They're going to, they are still investigating that. Now people are calling for FBI investigation to Kim Foxx's office and herself and that message, because her communication was between Tina Shin and her. Shin happens to be the former chief of staff to Michelle Obama.
Yep. I saw that connection. Wow. It's a small world. How do you see this playing out as far as I'm shocked at some of the public officials that are against it, I'm surprised, but kind of glad, Rahm Emanuel, David Axelrod, some of the other people that are there that have not supported the direction of this issue or where it's going. How do you see this ultimately playing out? Do you think federal crime? Do you think that the federal government is going to come in and intervene, or and ultimately bring him to justice, or do you think it'll be something that will be fought and contended until there is no where he wouldn't receive any punishment? Or I just want to kind of get your opinion on that.
Well, I think that, first of all, these probes and people, let's take this in sections. First of all, people like Rahm Emanuel and others, in a way, I just almost want to say they're just backpedaling.
Yeah.
From one of their own. And obviously, there's now heat on that person. You remember Rahm Emanuel when he left the White House as President Obama's chief of staff. Right after he left, I remember there was a big scandal started up. Yep. Every time someone left that administration, I always would start the countdown 10, 9. You know what I'm saying? Whether it was in 24 hours or less time, there was going to be a big announcement. It seems like the same thing. So I almost want to say it's almost as if, but to be fair about Rahm Emanuel, the city of Chicago's mayor, is that, he's taken heat from organizations within the city, such as BLM and other, One Chicago and so forth, for siding with law enforcement more than anything. So I will take the fact that he is sincere about all the effort and time that they put into this case, and treated Smollett very well all the way until it became apparent that, evidence was there. It was a hoax.
Yep.
So that part, I believe he's sincere. But today he also was in the news and he took the opportunity to slam President Trump's tweet about the FBI and DOJ should be investigating into this.
Mhm. Mhm.
The Smollett charges being dropped. And for most of the rest of them, I would say it's almost seems why it's a cover your behind type of
Mhm.
move for them.
Wow. 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 Well, I mean, initially when I saw the initial comments by Rahm Emanuel and David Axelrod, I know Axelrod sent a few tweets out, and he had a lot of retweets. I took them, honestly, I took them as sincere because I know some of those older liberals, they kind of fought for some of these issues. So, you talk about hate crimes and, you talk about gay rights and stuff like that. And for, someone in Jussie Smollett's shoes, he's an African American gay male, to abuse hate crime laws, things that I guess those, kind of older liberals have fought for. I think that's the kind of point of view that I kind of took the words from Axelrod and Rahm Emanuel and those that were critical of him. Um, I thought maybe they were kind of coming out against Jussie Smollett because of that connection to some of these protections that they fought for to get codified and put into law.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Well, and like I said, I will say that I felt the Mayor Emanuel was sincere with his anger and how it just really, let's put it in plain language, diss CPD
Hmm.
and just dismissed everything they did. And you and I know, Juan, that law enforcement around the nation is fighting to build relationships within communities,
Yeah,
correct?
absolutely.
Uh, and working and even having, COPAs, as part of their boards now, the citizens
Yeah.
um, division sitting on the boards. And I say here in Chicago, they're almost Laquanized based on, because Laquan McDonald shooting and so forth, with the prosecution of the officer who shot that young man in Chicago and the manner in which it was done. And they were that was part of when they wanted Rahm Emanuel to be recalled as mayor. So for Chicago doesn't have a recall law,
Hmm.
because of the releasing, holding the tape, and so forth there. So I will give him that on that sincerity. I will say that much, and it angered me too because I have some family members and I have several friends. Two family members who are CPD. I won't say their names. They don't have
Hmm.
my last name.
Hmm.
Um, and then several friends out here, including a girlfriend I went to high school with, who are, and she's a police detective actually,
Hmm.
has been with the force for a very long time. I understand the type of pressure, scrutiny they're under, and they even understand they're not perfect people either. They don't
Mm.
have all perfect cops on there, but my goodness, for the good ones and so forth. And when you're trying to do the right thing, and like you said, there's all sorts of protection laws and so forth. Something that the superintendent of Chicago Police, Eddie Johnson, said resonated too with me. And this is where my anger comes from.
Yep.
Um, my anger is this. This could have been explosive and dangerous at any other time of the year,
Yeah.
which is what Superintendent Eddie Johnson said in a exclusive interview on Fox 32 News local Chicago station. He said, if this was one of those 80-degree nights and people are already agitated for other reasons and stuff,
Yep.
this and someone could have went out and killed or hurt someone else really bad in retaliation on behalf of Jussie Smollett.
Yep.
On behalf of maybe the fact that how dare some MAGA hat persons attack a gay man or a black man, or all these different identity pieces he put into this hoax.
Mm, mm. Think about we're coming up, it's March 2019, and we're coming up on the 2020 election cycle, and tensions will get high. And, something like this would have happened, during that time with Jussie Smollett. It just would have caused a lot of confusion. Of course, the national media would eat this up, and they'll ultimately try to lay this at the doorstep of President Trump. But something like this happening, it's a key election. This is something that can alter outcomes, if I will.
Oh, imagine. Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And hey, if this turned out to not have been a hoax, Juan, you and I know we go above and beyond and try. We eat our own, first of all, when they say something stupid or do something wrong. I mean, we're quick to move and censor. We have a speaker of the House right now in Congress who couldn't censor one of her own Congress people on her anti-Semitism. So
Oh my goodness, yeah,
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 we chew our own up so fast that you can't even remember that person's name within a day or two. You
yeah.
know, and that's just how we are. And if it was someone that, and it was tracked down, and yes, they had a MAGA hat and all this stuff, obviously, most Chicagoans, I mean, a lot of Chicagoans, I even saw with my own eyes, some of the Chicagoans who are part of Black Twitter. Yes, there is Black Twitter. It does exist. And boy, you can get the news faster there than
Really?
anywhere
I had no
else.
idea.
Oh shoot, I'd be real quiet and still trying to hang out. And these were Black people, and I would check, and they directly in the city of Chicago, in the city, were saying, this don't sound right. I mean, to them it didn't sound right. They wanted to believe him. Like, I remember one man put out, dude, I want to be with you, my bro. I live in Chicago. And you can always tell when it's someone from Chicago, because they'll put an area. They'll say, I'm in Bronzeville, or I'm here, Hyde Park. Only Chicagoans know what this is. I'm at
Hmm.
87th and what, we do that in
Hmm.
Chicago. And he's like, but I don't believe it on the coldest night of the year. And no one in the city of Chicago runs around saying this is MAGA country. No one.
Yeah, yeah. What's Black Twitter? You got
Well,
to put me on.
Black Twitter is actually a hashtag, and it's hashtag Black Twitter. Uh, they distinguish themselves. Trump's first, I Trump wasn't even president yet. He wasn't even. He was. Oh my gosh, what is it called when you are sworn in? I guess I should say sworn in. It was right before swearing in,
Mhm.
and there was a misprint by Yahoo News One, and they said Trump wants a. It was supposed to say Trump wants a bigger navy. Well, there was a typo by Yahoo News social media person, and instead of a B, they put the N. It could have
Oh,
been disastrous.
oh my goodness.
This was 2015, right before the New Year. So like I said, Trump had won. He just wasn't, sworn in and taken over the presidency.
Hmm.
Black Twitter took this and ran with it and did what no one else believed would do, or didn't think they would do. And it became a riotous and ruckus hashtag, and it was all about the type of navy, just making jokes, if our ship is always going to be late because we're going to be the last ones to leave the dock because we still waiting on folks talking about I'm on my way, the little jokes, or the ice cream machine to be broke. you know
That's funny.
I stayed in that hashtag for 24 hours, and instead of it being all about, oh, that's racist, or somehow blaming it on Trump, because even though Yahoo did it, it just became a ruckus. It even hit newspapers and made headlines that Black Twitter made it into a joke. It all was okay. It was forgiven.
Oh my
And
goodness.
yeah, it was amazing. But they do discuss serious issues, concerns, and so forth as they see it in the Black communities.
I'm
And
out of the loop.
you are so out of the loop. So I will go there and check and see, are they discussing this? What is their opinions and thoughts on it? I mean, it's not the definitive, but it's kind of good to gauge, and it could be, more wider. Recent breaking news, though, is that the Illinois Prosecutors Bar Association released a statement today. I'm telling you, this is what this Jussie Smollett thing, this broke 2 hours ago. They're thinking there's a possible violation of the Illinois, um, it might be in violation of Illinois laws with the way the prosecutor handled this.
Oh wow, that's crazy.
Yeah, yeah. So people can check that out at the IPBA.org site. P as in Paul, B as in boy, A.org, and that's the Illinois Prosecutors Bar Association, who
Yep.
has posted up their statement regarding the handling of the Jussie Smollett
I'm gonna post that
case.
link to my Facebook.
Oh, that'd be great. That'd
Wow,
be great.
thanks. I post the CBS, the other link that you.
Oh, okay. The CWB. Yeah.
Yeah, I posted
Yeah.
the C. That's what actually it looks like a pretty good site. It had a lot of neat stuff up there.
Oh yeah, it's some really good stuff and the way they go. I'll tell you why they probably built that relationship. The B, as I said, stand for Boys Town. People who are familiar with Chicago will understand that. That is an area that has a heavy gay population.
Mhm. Mhm.
So even for CWB to say, we're digging for the truth.
Yep.
And we're showing you the contrast of how this works. Because there was a lot of violence and crimes committed over and perpetrated over in Boys Town, whether it was against those who were gay or within their own community, as we
Yeah.
know.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so CWB being Wrigleyville is the Wrigleyville area, which is a very diverse area. Also, people think of Wrigley Fields with the Chicago Cubs over there, but they cover all surrounding areas and stuff. And I go to them a lot of times because they will just give you facts and info, and especially on crime and data that they will pull, such as in this case. Well, thank you, Juan. It's something I think to keep an eye on. It doesn't seem like it's going to go anywhere too soon
Yeah.
because of the unusual circumstances from the moment the crime was committed to now, the way it was handled.
Yeah. 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 I guess we'll see how this shakes out. Overall, though, you know, because I know you're out there in the community, you're all over the place. Um, what's the temperature on, as far as how, the average, citizen feels about this? I mean, there are some people that, from what I've looked at various interviews and transcripts from news that are supportive of Justice Smollett, but there are a lot of people, average, ordinary people that are, kind of peeved with this. So, I wonder
That's
how this
what
is
I'm
going to.
getting.
I
That's
want,
what I'm getting too.
yeah, yeah. I wonder how this is going to affect his career because you're talking about, now there's you have an issue of public image, and you have a situation where you have one of your main stars of the show, co-stars of the show. I mean, making $1 million a year. Um, he's broken the public trust. He's used. He's kind of abused the system, and it could mean bad publicity from the show. I have, in some ways, I kind of doubt it. I think they would just welcome him back in open arms. Maybe, maybe I'm, naive. Maybe I'm just jaded because I just know um, how liberals can be, and that community is liberal anyway. And we're talking Hollywood, we're talking media, we're talking the entertainment industry. That's and they, they'll circle the wagons. They'll welcome one of their own back in a heart, especially if you've gotten away with it. So
Right.
yeah, so I
I
just
believe we've seen it happen before. I mean, wasn't just recently a big director or something like that in the entertainment just welcome back with open arms to Disney?
yeah,
They said they jumped the gun and all this stuff. Excuses, excuses, excuses. He did it. He said it. It was all over social media.
yeah,
Hey, I wasn't, we're not the ones pulling this feeding frenzy up on our own. But Juan, you and I have seen this before, whether it's entertainment or not. We've seen
mm,
it in the political world.
yep,
You have I think the only one who's so scandalous, they probably won't take him back. But then again, maybe I'm speaking too soon, is Anthony Weiner.
oh yeah, oh yeah,
I
that's a
mean,
good point.
right. I mean, Brian, what's his name? Show you how much they stay. The newscaster, that
Brian
the meme
Stelter.
that generated a bunch of memes because he got caught lying, embellishing news stories. Even he's back sitting at a desk, an
Yeah.
anchor desk.
Oh, I know you're talking about. Yeah, yeah.
It's Brian Williams, I
Brian
believe.
Williams. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, so it seems like they love people. Or you could say
Tom
they're
Brooks.
more forgiving than we are over
Yeah.
here because as a Republican and if it's a Republican politician or campaign worker or volunteer or someone who identifies as Republican in the entertainment world, yes, you do something scandalous, you're toast. You're just toast.
Wow. Yeah. Yeah. You're
But
right.
the average citizen's angrier than entertainment world because this is when you start sounding a different way. But there is that second tier. We're second tier. They're first tier. There's that privilege of being, an entertainer. I don't see this impeding his growth at all. I'm sure, maybe Empire did write him out. Maybe they didn't. I don't know, but he could pop back up. That's like a soap opera, anyways. Many soap operas have resurrected the dead.
That's true.
So,
That's true.
so he will go on. Here's my question. He was nominated, or I'm sorry, inducted in as a member of the 1000 leaders or something like that, this
Okay.
organization. And they are to be as mentors for young boys and
Oh
or,
God.
or youth in general. Yes. And it's things like that disturbs me the greatest. What type of an example are you setting?
Yeah. Yeah. Wow. That's crazy.
Yeah. Yeah. So I
Crazy.
mean that's a concern there, That was my only thing. I mean, frankly, I'm not a fan of crushing people that they can't survive because aren't we all about self-reliance and so forth? Own up, do that. I believe in second chances for everyone, but he hasn't even, as Rahm Emanuel said, apologize. He hasn't even said, and of course, we know he'll never apologize because an apology is an admission to guilt.
Yeah. Yeah. Definitely. Definitely. How, how are other things going in your state? I know this is like the central story. Um, and um, I was doing an analysis because we're over here in New Jersey. We're trying to fight off some of these policies. And it seems like there are a flood of people leaving New Jersey, New York, Illinois, Michigan, California. In terms of other issues, economic issues, I know we don't have to go too deep, but how other things going in those issues in your state? And
Ye-
where
Good
do you?
question. Good question, because this case is just a distraction. Right now, we are in the middle, actually, almost at the very tail end for the consolidated elections, which will be occurring in 4 days. Consolidated is everything from mayors of cities to aldermen to city council members, also school boards. I mean, any of those government agencies and offices that can affect you the fastest, the hardest, and the most.
Mm,
Yeah, that's happening. We'll be voting next Tuesday, as a matter of fact. So Mayor of Chicago's up, which Rahm Emanuel chose not to run again. So they're having a runoff between two Democrats, Lori Lightfoot and Tony Preckwinkle. Preckwinkle has the nickname of Queen Sugar. She was the one who, uh, pushed and got the sugar tax in Chicago, and
that's
quickly they had to remove it.
Queen Sugar.
Yeah, Cook County. Yeah, they were coming out here to the collar counties in droves to buy their sugar sweetened beverages and so forth.
That's
You
funny.
have that. Many of the towns and cities surrounding Cook County, because there's more to Illinois than the state of Chicago, as I refer to it now. The city of Chicago affects the whole state. So
Mm.
a lot of people laugh when I say the state of Chicago. It should really be its own state. And these are, very trying times, and especially if you're a Republican, these usually are what's called nonpartisan races for the most part, except for they're not no longer that way. The Democrats definitely want it to be known as partisan. You can look up on any website for any county Democrats, and they're going to put up their ballot choices and tell you out the door that's who they're endorsing.
Wow.
Yeah. So you have that going on. You still have the Great Illinois Exit, as we call it. There's even the hashtag Illinois Exit or IL Exit, and people leaving the state in droves. And frankly, there are places where houses were $250,000 in value. They were purchased maybe around that price or a little lower. And with the property taxes now, those homes, they're lucky if they'll get 13,000 out of those homes.
Wow, that's crazy.
Let me tell you something that's even crazier. They're in our south suburbs, and especially in suburban town that has a great history on Black Americans, and the dense population are African Americans.
Wow. Wow.
And this is what the Democratic policies in the state has done. The
Wow.
taxation burden with them constantly taxing the homeowners to death here. Um, this is what it did because of all the spending and the pension burdens that are owned in this state. And by the way, it's not a matter of them just mismanaging and misfunding the pensioners who are owed their money. Don't get me wrong. But the
Hmm.
fact that they let others who probably didn't even put in half the time of the established pensioners before them, who are, fearful of not getting their funds, it's the game called buying a pension credit and adding a few more thousand. We have a congresswoman from the state, Democrat congresswoman, who
Hmm.
didn't even finish out a term as a state rep and jumped into the Congress race, but she's still buying up, and maybe for like 1,000. I can't remember the amount. If I can remember correctly, something like $5,000, and she gets double that in a pension credit from the state of Illinois, which is paid by the taxpayers.
That is crazy.
This is the type of craziness that they have not resolved for decades.
Mm. Mm.
So you can't blame the former Republican governor for all of this stuff. And everyone knows Illinois has always been a blue state. The city of Chicago's always been blue. I can't even tell you how long ago it was if there was a Republican mayor.
Mm-hmm.
And these are the game, and of course they want more and more, the unions and so forth with these pensions. Something's got to change or break. But I'll tell you who's making the change is the big exit out of the state, which of course, as you and I know, why that leaves less taxpayers here too.
Yeah, yeah, it's definitely, it's hurt in New Jersey. It's definitely hurt in New York. New York, um, this past year, Governor Cuomo has went public in terms of the shortfall. A lot of it due to a lot of retirees from New York just find it expensive to live here, and they go to Florida or they go to North Carolina or Virginia, where the
Hmm.
taxes are lower. And I'm originally from Virginia. The taxes are lower there. It's a lot less expensive to live. You can buy something and live off your pension. Um, so it's just these liberal states, they just don't do things any other way. And New Jersey, for example, they passed a $15 minimum wage law that's going to kick in like 6 years or so. So it's policies like these, tax and spend policies that are driving people out of the states. um it's really unfortunate. Some of this stuff is very fixable. You're talking about pensions. You're gonna have to reform the pensions, get rid of the buy credits program, offload some pensions or buy people out. Like, there's a combination of things that you can do in order to resolve these issues, but unfortunately, some of the politicians aren't really good at solving problems.
No, because I always say, besides a deficit of common sense, apparently we have a deficit of good mathematicians at
Hmm.
our state capital.
Hmm.
They just, people, it would be common sense when you see something isn't working, it's not working. You can't
Yeah.
keep doing it. And you touched on a good point about the minimum wage. That just happened as well with the new Democrat governor in this state, J.B. Pritzker, a multi-billionaire
Hmm.
of the Pritzker family, and he signed the minimum wage law. And I don't know how it's working in New Jersey. You said 6 years. Yeah, ours is, I think, at a 5-year plan too, and it kind of graduates up to $15 an hour.
Hmm.
Well, now they're already seeing repercussions. I guess McDonald's has announced their corporate's here, by the way, or it was, and they've announced that they're bringing in more automation.
Yep.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Now we have an issue because I think I saw somewhere with, a man. It might have been the Technology Manufacturing Association, or maybe another guy. They put out a statement saying this is really going to be tough for the small manufacturers and so forth, because they can't afford to do that small automation, but it's going to really hurt them and workforce. You can take the smallest manufacturer and they can be manufacturing something that, is very critical and necessary. And I
Yep.
mean, they put it out in good volumes and good numbers. But at the same time, I mean, and I'm using an industry that already pays well, anyways,
Hmm.
when you coming in and stuff. But some of them, for when they have people in there as apprentices and training and so forth, they're not at that rate right off the bat,
Yep.
compared to someone who may have been there, already for a year or two. I know lately I've been talking about manufacturing a lot, not just because President Trump has made that industry, revived and come back. I actually knew a bit about it, not that I worked in it. It was part of my college study and program. Going to a technical school, I had to, intern on the manufacturing end and service end, as well as, the service public end.
Wow. Wow.
Operations management. So, we're the middle guy.
Yeah. Yeah.
And the first one's fired from companies. What
I know.
company would you
Really, they
be a
are.
stage in, right?
That's true.
And
That
especially when you're in the blue state, that was the issue. When I went into that program, operations management was actually the name of the 3-year bachelor program at DeVry. When I went into the study program, companies and businesses were booming and thriving, and it was the trickle down effect from Ronald Reagan's presidency.
Yep.
After so many years, when Clinton and them finally his policies is taking hold and
Yep.
effects and everything, undoing everything Reagan, here come the layoffs and the firings within that field. Operation managers, we look at that stuff. You can work for either or industry. I remember I kind of actually liked the manufacturing type, and where I had been in warehouses. I did some jobs over there, some internships, and so forth. And the dedication of the people and on the jobs, and just their joy in putting out a product that they knew other people were going to be using
Yep.
and really help. They never even thought about it as how it stimulated the economy. And yet, Illinois, states like this, they just work against them. So, Juan, it's going to implode soon. Everyone's going to feel this pain. People say, Babette, why do you stay here? It's not always easy to leave a state because for some of us, we're tied here because of elderly family members, or frankly, we couldn't unload our property to be able to afford to leave.
Yeah. Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah. We're definitely tied here. I mean, I have small children, and the schools and stuff like that. For now, it's keeping us here, but I do think eventually we'll probably leave at some point. But for here, while I'm here, we're here. There are other conservatives in New York and New Jersey. I do have an opportunity to uh, meet them and support them in some of their endeavors. And we just try to do the best we can.
I hear you. Same here. Well, thank you for this opportunity to chat with you tonight. I appreciate it.
Thanks for thanks for thanks for taking the time to be available. I mean, I know you're very busy, so I really appreciate it. I'm always following you, posting your stuff to my page, and I'm glad we're able to get together.
Oh, me too. And thank you for saying. And likewise here. Matter of fact, I gotta have you on the belly of the beast soon. Lately, we've been doing them on so many off times because we're running around election to election. I
Hmm.
think we got to get on the better schedule. All
Yeah,
right. Well, you have a great one.
you too. Thanks, Babette.
All right. Bye bye.
This is The Cure.
Folks, tonight we got a special guest. She is a well-known conservative blogger, radio commentator, and speaker. She is founder of the Last Civil Rights Media Bloggers Group. She's also president of the Frederick Douglass Foundation in Illinois. She is a strong advocate for limited government principles, individual freedom, and a strong free market. She's also appeared on various radio and TV shows and publications. Tonight, folks, I just want to introduce my good friend, Miss Babette Holder. Babette,